that's the biggest problem with staying independent and having your media architecture structure, something that's within, just keeping it in-house and having, ideally you would want all of your stuff to be like at the turn of a page. I was telling Debbie earlier, that's why I selected the people I selected. Because, and to invite, I'm glad everybody said yes. But it is that type of thing where, we're that type of personality. Not everyone is like that. Y'all know people. And getting back to my original thing about when I started Soundboy, we would get talent. They would be good. They would cut a demo. If a rapper was really good, he had a great flow. Or we had this group of 3 high school girls who could straight blow. I mean, they could really sing. But everybody wanted to be famous. Everybody wanted to be the next big thing. They didn't understand how independent media works at all. And they didn't want to know. I mean, I had to explain to them that as high as you'll ever get, once you get to a certain point, I would tell them to their face, I'm going to option you to like somebody who was a major label who wants to sign you. I'm not going to mess with that. And because that's not how, indie production works on any level or in any genre, whether it's film, TV, music. It was really hard for people in Charlotte and Atlanta and other places in this sort of Southeast to get that. They never really got that. Whereas in New York and LA and other places, they got it instantly. They knew exactly what independent was. They knew that if it was independent, they could say what they wanted pretty much. They could do what they wanted pretty much. And they knew that they would have control because it's not corporate. They knew that anytime they didn't, F my shit up, that I wasn't going to mess with them, which is key. But we had such a hard time talking to the talent back then, and they just wanted that one singular goal, and it was all just, and it was completely misunderstood, about what success was compared to what success is compared to what success is shown to be by sort of mainstream. I don't know if I told you the story about when I interviewed Q-Tip. This was before Fife Dog passed away, and it really changed me. I think it changed the direction of my career. And the one thing that stuck out from that interview was they had an album. You remember the Low End Theory? Tribe Called Quest? Okay. There's a song on there, War Tour. Is a War Tour on Low End? I think so. And we were just talking about it, like some tracks that they had recorded. And he was like quiet for a while. He said, when I wrote a War Tour, I was sleeping in the couch in my mom's basement. And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah. He's like, from that album to now, this was early 2000s. That album came out maybe 97, I'm thinking. 96, 97, somewhere around there. His total earnings from that was $35,000. Now, here's an album that I had, that all my friends had, that was gold. I don't think it went platinum, but it was a big record. I mean, a lot of people had that Tribe record. And he had 35 G's total. That was the royalty.
Wow.
And he confirmed a lot of stuff I already knew. And he shifted me from the music industry to film. Like, I almost literally left the music industry because of that conversation.
I know he basically said it in one of his songs. He was like, rule number 4080, record company people are
shady, yeah. Yeah.
He said it right then and there. And then you got a group like De La Soul. De La Soul, none of their stuff is on any streaming sites.
Wow. Right. You're right.
They basically owe Tommy Boy or whoever owns Tommy Boy now or however, like $4 million.
Yeah.
How?
Yeah. Yep. They can't even, like they do reunion shows and stuff, and they can't even. Somebody told me they can't perform certain songs live because they'll hit them, they'll like flag them and say, "Hey, you gotta pay up." The weird thing is I was already not crazy about the industry. I didn't like the industry, so I'm like, okay, my response to that is to stay independent. But then after I talked to him, I talked to a couple of my friends who used to work for Sony. That was real deep shit. And it was like, it was really illuminating because it made understandable a lot of things that happened after that. So like, when I saw like a lot of rappers going broke and all this other stuff was happening, it was because, these guys shoot videos, none of that stuff is theirs. The house belongs to the studio. The cars belong to the studio. All of their work products belongs to the studio. So y'all saw that movie.
Even all them chains and stuff belongs to the studio.
Yep.
All that Rolex and all that.
All the bling. Yep, you got it. Mm-hmm. And that was why when Dirty South hit, the Dope Boys were like a shock to the system because they were slinging on the street. That's how they got their bling. It wasn't from selling records. BG wasn't no lyricist. And you know what I'm saying? It wasn't like, those guys were not, I don't even know if they were literate, but they made their money the old fashioned way. And they were just like, okay, let's do this rap thing, whatever. And I think maybe that eased a lot of them out of that life. But yeah, that was a real shock to the system because prior to that, it was cats who were kind of, sort of, I don't want to say they were posing. And again, that's a part of the tragedy of Biggie and Tupac, and not to get into that because I have a lot of definite feelings on that, a lot of strong feelings on, especially Biggie, because when I first heard him, he was otherworldly. He had one of the best freestyle flows I've ever heard in my life, and to this day, I believe with all my heart, number one, that Puffy ruined his career and definitely has something to do with him getting killed. Because Biggie was going to leave Bad Boy. He had already announced that he was going to leave Bad Boy. And if you think about it, if he leaves Bad Boy, who's there? The same people who were there after he died, right? Who like fizzled out. So you had Cease and Lil Kim, and where did they go? So honestly, I'm not gonna get into it, but I've talked to people and I've heard some things that sounded really interesting about Puffy and Suge collaborating to get rid of both Tupac and Biggie.
Because Pac was leaving too.
Pac was leaving too, and Suge definitely didn't. Puffy at least had some scrubs. Suge didn't have nobody because Snoop was gone, and
Dre basically ran off and left everything behind and said, "Screw it, you keep everything."
Exactly. Dre ran off took Eminem with him. And so yeah, but even don't listen to me. I'm saying do your own research, but think about it this way. And Debbie, I know this will like blow your mind. Think about every time you hear about somebody getting gadded up, especially in a car or, in a public place. How in the hell does Tupac go get shot all those times and Suge not get a scratch? So
nobody else shot.
Nobody
else. In Biggie's car, it was like 4 people. Nobody got shot.
Nobody in the back seat. Not even, their clothing didn't even get nicked. So,
I keep saying whenever they, show, like true stories of, supposedly what happened. And just fire out on one side of the car.
Mm-hmm. I know street dudes that shoot at people. It's no way on God's green earth that you're gonna hit one side of the car that many times on point.
Yep. Unless you're a pro.
Suge was already a paranoid dude, so 9 times out of 10 the car should have been bulletproof.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. I didn't even think about that. Those seem like those seem like mafia style pro hits because that's the only hit I've ever heard of where somebody could arrange it and not get a scratch, and the other person, get all shot up. So, I mean, like I said, I've talked to people, I've heard things, I don't know anything for sure, but common sense tells you that's not right.
What blows my mind about it is that it's been over, going on 20 years, and they still have got no one.
Exactly. To me, that has pro hit all over it. Because in 20 years, somebody would have rolled over on some old Momo who, if just some old...
They don't killed all the people that can possibly talk
off.
Yep,
they did. Yep.
Exactly. Yep. And so all I'm saying is, think about what state Puffy would have been in if Biggie had gone off on his own and made these amazing records with probably some of them with Tupac because they had made up by then. And I mean, think of that kind of music and Puffy wouldn't have been involved, Suge wouldn't have been involved. Think of the money they would have lost. You talking maybe not billions, but multi-millions, like tens, hundreds of millions that they missed out. But if they're dead, now Puffy has the rights to all Biggie's records because he's dead.
That's right.
Suge has the rights to all Tupac's music because he's
not anymore.
Yeah, well, not anymore, but ideally, Suge is not the sharpest knife in the drawer. So
no, that's why Puffy's out dancing and Sugar's in jail.
Damn straight. And y'all remember when he dangled Vanilla Ice out the window?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He Mike Jackson babied him.
He was like, "Who wrote the song?" I wrote the song. Look, Vanilla Ice was like, "No, man, I wrote the song." He was like, "Okay, we'll see about that." Hang him out the window.
He 5 heartbeated him.
That's what I was about to say. He big redded him. he big redded him.
Yeah,
like, I told you, my business hours are from 9 to 6.
So, yeah, I mean, the point is, that was a good example, though, of how the media architecture works and Puffy built. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt that he didn't have something to do with that, which I know that he did, but he just built this crew, and the whole reputation and the reason for people buying records was the crew. Because I remember, wasn't there a group called The Locks?
The Locks.
The Lock. That record sucked so bad. And
now hold up. Now with Puffy, now the group themselves, the Locks, are actually good. Styles P, Jadakiss, Sheik Loops. They're actually good. But what Puffy was doing with them, with all that pretty boy stuff and one of them was dancing with Chinese people and all this stuff,
I can believe
was
that.
just horrible for them because their image was more street than pretty boy music. It worked for Mace. It didn't work for them.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking because when that record came out, and I still had my production company, and the college girls who interned for me all ran to the store and bought it. And they were like, "We're ready to throw this thing in the garbage." Because they said the same thing, because the persona didn't match what the guys were saying. Just like, because wasn't that the money, power, respect guys? Like,
yep.
Okay. Yeah, the shit didn't match. And I was listening to it like, what is going on here? So, Kenny, you're probably right. If they had the artistic license to do what they wanted, that record probably might have been decent. But, like, everyone I know who bought it was like, what is this? You know? And I agree with you. That was probably all Puffy doing that.
Because you gotta remember, Mace's name before he was Mace was Murder Mace back on the mixtapes. So,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, him and Cam, who used to be Killer Cam.
I remember that.
Was a crew, and they used to run with Big L and all of them.
Yeah.
So, they used to do some hardcore rap, like street rap.
Yeah.
Mace wasn't all dancing around. It was like, Mason Betta.
you know, I just be saying that to get you mad.
He wasn't all like that. He was rapping about shooting people and everything.
Yeah, if they were down with Big L, I mean, I loved Big L back in the day, but yeah, he was hard as nails. This shit was
if Big L was still alive, there wouldn't have been no Jay-Z. I don't care what nobody say.
I agree with that.
There wouldn't have been no Jay-Z because Big L was rapping what Jay-Z came in later on and was rapping about.
I agree.
So Big L was already on that.
Big L his shit was just straight real. Like, and I remember at that time I had some thug ass friends, and even they were giving props to him. Like, they were like, damn, Big L is the artist. How did he pass away? Wasn't it mysterious or something?
No, it was a mistaken identity.
Oh, okay.
They thought he was his brother. And that goes back to say, once you make it to a certain level, you can't go back to the hood. Right. You know, you can't be everywhere. You can't be accessible to everybody. Yeah. And so he went back to the same neighborhood, was hanging out. Somebody had a beef with his brother and thought it was him and shot him. Yeah. I mean, it happens though.
Yeah.
You know,